I joined GRINDLAYS Bank in December of 1982. Thereafter, my results of the BCS 1982 exam came out very late, after more than 1.5 years, when I was already confirmed and was serving as a branch manager of GRINDLAYS Bank PLC. After being selected as Assistant Collector, Customs and Excise, I went to the National Board of Revenue and I met some of my seniors working there. And they said, already you've spent nearly 2 years with GRINDLAYS Bank. Banking is a good career. You'll have to start training all over again. You may not feel very comfortable. Please go back to GRINDLAYS Bank and serve there. So that is the story of how I remain in the bank. And now I am here 35 years later. GRINDLAYS Bank had a world-class management trainee program, and the selection process was very strict. And from hundreds and hundreds of applicants, or maybe thousands of applicants, they used to select 4 or 5 management trainees in each batch. So I belonged to the management trainee batch of 1982. We were given all-round training in banking, along with classroom courses and also training overseas. After that, on confirmation, I was confirmed as a manager of a branch, which never ever happened in the history of the bank. A young man becoming branch manager. So the bank believed in us, believed in the training they had given us. So accordingly, we started our journey on a very fast track. And then we went on to do multiple jobs. We were rotated, and each time I was given a new appointment, I was sent abroad for on-the-job exposure or classroom training, which sharpened my skills. And when I came back, I could also train the other people around me. And as a result of this, I think there are at least 14 CEOs now out of 57 banks in Bangladesh who are from the old GRINDLAYS banks, or you can say Standard Chartered or the GRINDLAYS Bank group. 35 years in banking or in management or in leadership is a long time. And I believe that I only held those positions in trust, and one day I have to go. But I have had the fortune of going around the world, being exposed around the world, working around the world, and seeing things which very few Bangladeshis have seen. So my responsibility, I believe, is transferring that experience, that knowledge onto a younger generation. Bangladesh is growing. It will become a very big nation in the world, there's no doubt about that. But for that, we need many corporate leaders, not only in banking, insurance, finance, merchant banking, normal corporate jobs in manufacturing industries, in the service industry. We need lots and lots of consummate leaders. So my job, I believe, is creating leaders, creating future CEOs. Exactly, that is why in Mutual Trust Bank in 2011, we started the MTB Management Trainee Program known as MMTs. So they are recruited from thousands of applicants, and they are given world-class training. And every year, their training schedule modules are made more strict, more cutting edge, and we acquire knowledge from the internet, from around the world, what is going on. And they are also fast-tracked and immediately put on confirmation in very senior jobs. So today, MTB has nearly 100 such MMTs. And I believe that they will not all stay here eventually. As time goes, some of them will migrate, which is fine. And some of them they'll go on to very senior jobs in other banks, which is also fine, because from GRINDLAYS Bank, you have all these people spread everywhere. So one day, I also believe that there will be MTBNs, MMTs, who will be giving leadership to the banking sector of Bangladesh. The critical success factors is that, first of all, you have to learn, and you have to unlearn. Because what you learn today may not be important tomorrow. So to unlearn and relearn. And these days, knowledge is at your fingertips. Google away. In the old days, we used to go to the library, look for a book, sit down laboriously, and then make notes. Now it is in your pocket. Any spelling of a word, anything, you can know in a minute. So learning is number one. Observing what the others are doing, how the leaders are behaving. Whenever I go to a conference overseas, meeting overseas, I watch how they are behaving. There are good things that they do, I try to learn. I come back and I pass it on to my colleagues. So the other one is honesty. Absolute honesty and integrity and transparency in whatever you do. You may make a mistake, but do own up. If I make a mistake, I'll always tell my board of directors I made a mistake. The other thing is you must have strategic foresight, what to do in the future. You must see what is coming, like now the digital revolution in banking. We must adapt our bank to face the future. In future, there will be less bank branches. With the result that this year, last year in 2017, MTB did not open a single branch. not a single branch, because we believe that in future these branches will become redundant. Everything will be distributed through the internet. You see the figures that come out. I mean, recently that has come out. How many internet users are there in Bangladesh? 80 million internet users in Bangladesh. And it will expand. The quality of the internet speed will get better. The bandwidth will get better. 4G will come. So all our young generation will be more comfortable in accessing the internet and acquiring knowledge. The other thing that we need is discipline, patience, respect for elders, respect for others. Bangladeshi people are very impatient. They don't like to queue up. So we need to be culturally more aware, more polished, to be at par with the best of the world. I quite agree with the statement you have made that banks are dominating the financial scenario in Bangladesh. Obviously, banks are the intermediaries. You can say that 1/3 of the needs of the country's budget is met from the resource mobilization, that is taxes. The rest comes from the people of Bangladesh through the deposits they make in the banks. The banks finance all these investments, finance all these industries, factories, hotels from the people's money. So banks play a great intermediary role, or intermediation as it is called. Unfortunately, despite there being so many insurance companies in Bangladesh, they have not been able to proliferate. They have not been able to come up with new products, and they have not been able to make it popular with the masses. Also, the masses are not very interested in taking insurance. They cannot see so far into the future. They do not believe in making investment now where they will get the money after 25, 30 years. That attitude has to change because time passes. I have also become now old. If I had known, then I would have set up many insurance policies in 25, when I was only 25 years old or 30 years old, a small amount of money. And today they would have grown into a very large sum of money. And in a country where you do not have a national pension scheme, we do not have a national gratuity scheme for private sector people like us. When you retire, you have nothing except whatever you have accumulated or get from the organization you've been working with. So it's very important that insurance companies come forward with products like bank assurance. They start going out into the country and getting more and more insurance policies and get the funds which are actually again used for investment. Unfortunately, again, as I said, there are too many insurance companies. I believe that insurance companies should merge, both life and general, and that way they'll have more power, more capital, more strength to do better and come up with new products and services. With non-banks, some of them are doing quite well, like IDLC, IPTC, and then the Uttara Finance, United Finance. But obviously their balance sheets are very small and their capital base is very small. So to come up to the level of banks is difficult because banks have much more capital. You see, banking business is always based on capital. You must have capital adequacy to do various things in a bank or non-bank financial institution. So unless they are able to gather more capital, they cannot grow. To answer this question, one must look at the evolution of Bangladesh's independence and how businesses then evolved. In 1972, the country was left in tatters. Most of the businesses was controlled by the West Pakistanis. Adamji Jute Mill, Bawani Jute Mill, Konnafuli paper mills, most of the mills, match factories, whatever you name it, jute mills, etc. It is very few Bangladeshis who had businesses like the Eke Khans and the Spanis also, who are not from West Pakistan. They are Bangladeshis in the sense that the father migrated or grandfather migrated a long time ago to Bangladesh, and they're very much in this country. So they are still here, so great businesses. And then there are others, very few other groups which were there. Maybe W. Raman Jute Mills, it comes to mind, Mr. Latifur Rahman's father who set it up. So there were very few entrepreneurs in the early years. But after, taking the responsibility of Bangabandhu, first had to feed Bangladeshi people. The food was scarce. They had to rebuild the bridges. You have to rebuild the bridges. It was an awesome task. We had no money, no foreign exchange. But with time, businesses started to grow, and people I know who had started a small proprietorship company selling flasks are today now owns a conglomerate which has $2 billion in sales and employing hundreds and thousands of people. What a fantastic achievement. So there are many groups in Bangladesh now who have more than $1 billion in sales, employing all these people. They're doing great, but most of them are first generation. They set it up. So they have a lot of love for their business, they like to control the business, and they are greatly entrepreneurial. So they like to manage everything on their own. It's only now that the second generation is coming in or have started to come and take charge. So most of the second generation are the sons and daughters. They've studied abroad mostly, they've come back, they're modern looking, they're also running the business. So I think the next stage will be when the corporatization will come. There are a few organizations I already know, like ACI, like Apex. They already have corporate leaders from the corporate world. Yes, the owners are there also, but I know them so closely, so I can see that they allow their corporate leaders whom they have employed as even in the post of managing directors to run the business. But obviously there is a long way to go. People are still shy to list on the stock exchange because there are so many regulations which they have to meet, and they don't want to meet so many regulations. Again, they have to hold AGMs, and AGMs are very tough to hold. As you know, there are so many shareholders, 45, 50,000, you have to manage the AGMs, and they come there and ask so many questions. So it becomes challenging for those entrepreneurs, and they become shy to list the companies. But I always believe one must list the companies because you are the entrepreneur, you set up the business, you must unlock the value first for yourself, and then you must share the value with the general people of the country. That's why it's very important for a company to be listed on the stock exchange. And listing also, as I said earlier, brings in corporate governance rules and regulations. They may not follow 100% of it, they may follow 40, 50%, but that is a beginning. And as time evolves, I believe that corporate governance practices will start getting embedded. You see, when I go to New York, I have a nephew there who has graduated from Princeton. So I go around with him, and he doesn't have any cash in his pocket. He's only got a debit card or a credit card, and he has a travel card to travel on the trains and buses and subway. So I asked him, he says, no, I don't need any money. There's no cash requirement in my life. Everything is transfers. Everything is payments. I said, oh, okay, awesome. But in Bangladesh, our country, to go into fully cashless will take a long time. It's also got to do with people's education, people's culture, people's habits. Large population lives in villages. They still do, and they still believe in cash transactions. They can see the cash, feel the cash, keep the cash under the mattress or in a bamboo. That's the way they do it. But increasingly, banks have started opening branches nearby. Banks like ours have also started opening agent banking centers where the village people can go and deposit their money. Slowly, more and more people are coming into the banking net. But you're right, it will take, the digital system is coming in, younger people are doing banking from their phones, and as time goes, cashless will come, but not in full in Bangladesh. It's a long journey. I believe Bangladeshi people are very hardworking, very intelligent. Unfortunately, they do not learn enough English. English is now the language of the world. German people speak English, or most European nations speak English. You now go to France, they speak English. In Russia, you go, they speak English. Chinese people are also learning English. Japanese people are also learning English. But Bangladeshi people fear English. They're shy of English. They must first learn English. That is the language of the world. Of course, Bangla comes automatically. It's my mother tongue. There's no problem with that. Bangla I will speak with my brethren in Bangladesh. But when I am outside, I must be able to speak fluently in English. I do not need to have an English accent. I need not need to have an American accent. My accent is quite fine as long as I speak properly with proper grammar, punctuation, and elocution. And content. I must always have the content. So with the content and smartness, and also being able to hold the audience through eye contact and tell them what the story you want to tell them, you cannot be a good speaker. So it's very important, again, for Bangladeshis. And also Bangladeshis are not very good listeners sometimes. When they meet each other, both start talking at the same time. Nobody is listening to each other. So one must first listen, I believe. And one must listen to what other speakers say and respect them. And then it's only when it's my chance to speak, sir, may I speak? Madam, may I speak? Only then I speak. And when I speak, others should also keep quiet. I believe an entrepreneur lies in all of us. I believe that we all like to be independent. But then people don't want to take risks and then take up jobs. And once they take up jobs, they're trapped. Because then they have a family, they have children, they have old parents to look after, or brothers and sisters to look after, and they cannot leave the job that they're in. And it's such a situation that they spend most of their money and have very less disposable income. But increasingly salaries are going up. Increasingly now there are double, triple income families. Wife is working, brothers are working, in whatever it may be, or somebody may have a shop somewhere. So slowly people are getting entrepreneurial. And before, there were no SME loans available. There were no retail loans available. Now we are making small loans and SME loans available across the country and creating small entrepreneurs. And I've seen in far-flung districts, ladies setting up shops, and then 3 years later, they're setting up a bigger shop. So that actually encourages us to finance them. And as I said earlier, people fear the risk and they don't have access to funds. For this, you need also venture capital funds. You need angel investors. You need crowd funding, as they call it. And then those entrepreneurs can go forward and do things. So there are a lot of startups. Startups must be, checked, seen. There must be a competition. And there are now organizations. I know Grameenphone has recently had a startup event which I attended. And there are many others who are doing this. It is our job to encourage the entrepreneurs in the young brains of our bright young people and make them come forward in the world of technology, service, whatever it may be. Well, as I said earlier, discipline and patience are very important virtues. We by nature are not disciplined. We always want to be first in anything, getting into a bus. I remember when I was young at Gulistan corner, when a bus used to come and people used to jump through the windows to get inside and get a seat. I still remember the mad scramble. So they would not want to queue outside and get into the bus. So even now, as you just said rightly, at any place, anywhere people are crossing the road. It's very dangerous to cross the road anywhere. Speeding buses, trucks are going, and you may be knocked down and die. Senior journalist Jaglul Ahmed Chaudhary died while getting down from a bus in Shunargai intersection. Such a sad event. So I believe that all bus drivers, all these coach drivers, then all these truck drivers need to be disciplined. They must follow the rules everywhere. And pedestrians must also follow the rules. Only cross when the signal is for them, not against them. And their crossing the road means traffic has to slow down. And it causes so much nuisance. And again, as I said, people need to be also tolerant and also be kind and courteous to others. Maybe you may be a few seconds late, it does not matter. I see a very bright future because, as I said earlier, we have MMTs, management trainees. And then I see the young kids outside. I go to various events, to young entrepreneur events. I speak to them, I see them. They are very smart. They're very smart. They are quick. They want to work hard. Boys and girls both want to work hard. And the boys and girls that I have in my office now, especially the MMTs, they come and teach me things. I do presentations around the world. As you rightly said, I made a presentation last year at Harvard. I made one in Bombay. I made one in Bangkok and in London, many places. So I give them the concept based on what the organizers want me to speak on. And then we gather information. Then I put in my experience, my own knowledge. Then I ask them to draw content from the internet, the appropriate content. Then we sit down together and have a draft made. And then these are the boys who then go back and create a cutting-edge presentation which I'm able to present anywhere in the world. So I believe that our younger generation, with proper education, training and exposure to the world, they must be exposed to the world, more exposed. They should be able to go on study tours, on exchange tours, on exchange home tours around the world. Somebody should come up with those ideas. So when they come back, they gather knowledge and then they synthesize it, and then you are living in a global village to take this country forward.